Hello students, welcome to the ethics class. Again, you should have attempted this question before watching this video. Again, ethics is a very subjective paper, especially part A. So you can write answer in a variety of ways. This is just one of the ways to try to guide you. So 2021 5A, we will discuss it. And refugees should not be turned back to country where they would face persecution or human rights violation. Examine the statement with reference to ethical dimension being violated by the nation claiming to be democratic with open society. So this question is directed towards India. Even the Rohingya refugees have come to India, time and again center has tried to turn back to Myanmar even though they can face serious persecution and human rights violation, especially considering the fact that we are a democratic country with open society. So this question is directed towards India without mentioning the word India. So let us see. So how can refugees be sent to be subject to violence when we are open society where non-violent and peaceful values and methods are adopted? Won't the values and methods lose relevance? So in this question you find many question marks. So in many times it is several times it is better to write questions instead of sentences to have more impact, to make the choice clear. So when we are an open society, that means we have non-violent and peaceful methods, then how can we turn refugees to violence? Won't the values and methods lose relevance? That is one question. And how can we promote democracy when certain population, that is refugees, is being driven out of country without any voice or vote? So how can we promote democracy? Like democracy means each individual has some value. And when we are sending certain population without any voice or vote to a place where they would face serious persecution, how can we promote democracy then? Especially when there is no democracy in Myanmar after coup, after military taking over. So when such persecution, violence and uprooting of livelihood occurs, how can we send refugees back? Then how can we give any value to humans and secure basic human rights in open society? So open society means there have to be certain basic human rights. Then if we are sending people to such persecution, then how can we secure basic human rights? Then how can we say that by being humans you have some value? So we cannot say that. Especially this is a very serious persecution. Rohingyas are one of the most persecuted populations around the world. Their livelihood has been uprooted. There is lot of violence. That is why they had to flee, leaving behind everything they have. And how can an open society promote such racial hatred and religious intolerance in neighboring country and send refugees back? And also, being an open society, we shouldn't tolerate such amount of racial hatred. Rohingyas are being driven out of the country primarily due to racial hatred and religious intolerance. So how can we encourage such religious intolerance and racial hatred in neighboring country? And also, it's not like the neighboring country's values will stay in the neighboring country itself. They will even come to us. Wouldn't the neighboring country values reach our society, especially with the help of such materialism? So if we see we are only trying to boost materialism, it may be the neighboring country or ourselves. And if we have such kind of materialism, then wouldn't the values of neighboring country even come to us? Then we would also show racial hatred and religious intolerance. And there is certain degree of religious intolerance even in India and racial hatred even in India. So can our society afford to be such unempathetic? Wouldn't such levels of materialism destroy the values, basic human rights and social fabric in our country? Aren't we hypocritical then? Thus refugees should not be turned back to country where they face serious persecution. So if we see it comes to 158 words, we can write within the word limit. So the question is directed directly towards India, that when refugees are facing such humanitarian crisis, we cannot simply turn back to the country where they face serious persecution, where they face serious human rights violations, especially considering that we are a democratic and open society. So, as such, we should be promoting non-violent and peaceful methods. We should give them some voice because we are trying to promote democracy. And we should try to see that human rights, basic human rights are not violated and humans have some value. So certain basic human rights are necessary. At the same time, we cannot promote such kind of racial hatred and religious intolerance in the neighboring country. At the same time, we cannot promote such amount of materialism in our country. If we promote, then the neighboring country's values would also come to our country. We would also have the values of racial hatred, religious intolerance, violence, etc. So we cannot afford to be such unempathetic. We cannot afford to be such materialistic. We need to secure certain basic human rights. We need to secure certain important values. We cannot be hypocritical. Thus, refugees should not be turned back to country where they face serious persecution. That we need to understand. So that is all. Thank you.